Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story. So let's jump straight into it. The biggest story of the week for you, what was it?
For me, well, look, it had to be the Reserve Bank Board leaving interest rates on hold. Everybody was watching to see what they'd do. They stayed at 4.1% for now. Of course, that flowed on to markets. It was a big week for markets more generally because we had the end of the fiscal year. For 2023 financial year, markets ended up 8 or 9%, not bad. Super returns somewhere between 8 and 10%, that's pretty good. This week we had a bunch of property and super funds writing down the values of their commercial property portfolios by up to 10%. We also had Apple hit the $3 trillion mark on Wall Street. We had the Fed come out and say the decision to pause on rate hikes last meeting wasn't unanimous. That sent markets low. Very big week for markets and the economy, Michael.
Yes, massive week, wasn't it? There was a couple of good stories in politics for me, Sean, which is pretty impressive considering Parliament wasn't actually sitting this week. We did have a big visit. Indonesian President Joko Widodo was in Sydney visiting Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. They covered a whole lot of ground. It was kind of Indonesia's green energy transition, electric vehicles, easing of visa requirements, a really strong focus on trade and investment. There were CEO meetings, all that kind of thing. Very important for Australia's economy and for our kind of regional security as well. A little bit more on the domestic front as well. We had the voice debate continuing to get increasingly political. We saw a lot of that this week. And we also had the National Anti-Corruption Commission officially start. And in the first 2 days, which was actually last weekend, they received 44 referrals online and 5 phone calls, which is quite a lot considering weekends are not typically peak hours for government departments, Sean.
They're going to be very busy. Michael, I've got to tell you about my most remarkable story. It's all about Phil Lowe, the Reserve Bank governor. It's amazing how many critics of the governor now want his tenure extended. This week, opposition finance person Jane Hume threw her support behind Lowe. We've had business leaders and economists doing the same thing. The gist seems to be that given the tough economic period we're heading into, no one is better qualified to run the central bank and the economy than Dr. Lowe, notwithstanding his comments early last year about rates not rising until 2024. Anthony Albanese was asked directly about who would replace Lowe, a decision that will be announced later this month. He praised Department of Finance Secretary Jenny Wilkinson and Treasury Secretary Stephen Kennedy as outstanding public servants. Obviously, they're front runners. Phil Lowe still wants a job, but it is quite remarkable how in the last 6 months or so, the worm has turned for Phil Lowe. People like him again.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Can I offer a sleeper story for us this week, Sean? So a very serious one. Hong Kong has offered bounties worth almost $200,000 for information leading to the arrest of 8 pro-democracy activists, including an Australian citizen, Kevin Yam, and former Hong Kong politician Ted Hui, who lives in Adelaide. It's a sleeper story because of what it means for the relationship with China. We've had a lot of focus on the economic relationship, and the Albanese government has been making a lot of progress in normalising those relations, including a potential visit later this year to Beijing. But these bounties have really served as a reminder that while we're focusing on the economy, there's a lot of those existing concerns around human rights haven't actually gone away. So this debate is really just kicking into gear. How does Australia balance its economic relationship with China with our concerns over human rights and the oppression of free speech? This is going to be a big, big issue in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, very much a sleeper story. A quick mention from me. Telstra signed an agreement to become the first telco globally to offer rural broadband and voice services with Elon Musk's satellite provider Starlink. It's a low Earth orbit satellite system. The NBN's talking about it. Reckon we'll hear a lot more about these low Earth orbit satellites in coming years.
All right, what was your favourite story this week, Sean?
My favourite story of the week was all about Threads. Now, that's the social media giant's Meta's version of Twitter. It's up and running. It signed up 2 million people in the first 2 hours, 5 million people in the first 4 hours. The first post from Mark Zuckerberg, the founder and owner of Meta, was, "Let's do this. Welcome to Threads." Not exactly exciting. Anyway, it's got all those features that Twitter offers. You can like things, repost, reply. It's got video, photos, etc., etc. The fact that it's tied to Instagram, which is owned by Meta and has 2 billion users, should give Threads a pretty good head start. Plenty of Aussies joined up. Fear and Greed being one, Michael. Favourite story of the week?
Yeah, it's a cracker. Very quickly for me, Japan Airlines renting renting out clothes to travelers, all in the name of sustainability. Pay $80 or so, rent up to 8 outfits for as long as 2 weeks. They come in 3 different sizes. You can pick the style. They'll be delivered to your designated hotel. All about sustainable tourism. I think it's fantastic innovation and just a really fun story.
I agree with that. It's a great story.
There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business news. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and follow us on social media. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.